Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bikini and the Brain podcast. My name is Ashley Kaltwasser, and to my left is Adam Bonia from Team ElitePhysique.com. And today we're going to go over some listener questions that we got on our Instagram DMs. So we got a lot of good questions lined up here. So let's go ahead and just get into it.
Yeah. So these ones are all provided by you guys. And of course, if you guys want us to do more questions, leave them in the comments below. We're happy to do them, or leave them even in the live.
Yeah.
Maybe we can see some of these questions live. So
yeah, we do these every so often, guys.
Yeah,
so often.
it's good to stay in touch with you guys, get your
Yeah.
questions answered.
Always
and
new questions.
Yeah, it makes it. And honestly, for us, we always got to come up with these podcast topics. This one is always one of the more fun and kind of leads into other podcasts. We just never know where it's going to go. So
part one leads to part two,
Yeah.
part three, all that good stuff.
So our first question came in via Instagram. Kuroku Kopo, cool, hard to say name, says, if I haven't been stage lean, how do I know my target weight? Which is a good question.
Great question, because it's very individualized. I would say, firstly, don't go off of what someone else's stage weight is, because that's irrelevant. And it might not look the same on you, because we all carry things a little differently, right?
Yeah.
You might be surprised that, maybe some girl weighs more than me, but I think I look smaller, and vice versa.
Yeah. There's, it's funny, to your point, I worked with this men's physique pro one time, a long ways ago. And he was so jacked and his weight was so light. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, do you have like bird bones or something? Like, it doesn't make sense how you're so light. Cause he was so muscular. He was in the high 150s and he was like way clear. Like if you saw him next to me, he was way bigger looking than me, but I was above him by like 40 pounds. And I was like, how is this even possible? Right. So it was just like, that guy was like perfect for like classic physique. If he would have kept competing, he stopped competing. But if he's like perfect for classic physique, he can fit so much mass in that weight class. Right. But so some people just weigh more than others and it doesn't look the same. Right.
Yeah.
So you can't go off of just a pure weight. Because if he would have just emailed me and said, hey, I'm 158 pounds and I'm a men's physique, I want to be a men's physique pro, win a men's physique show, I'd be like, good luck, dude. Like, you're 158 pounds, 5'9", like, or 5'10". How are you going to do that? But it's just, some people just look different. So you do have to find your stage weight by, getting lean and getting muscular, and don't go off of a stage weight yet. If you haven't been on stage, just, go for a look. And that's the thing. Like someone like Ashley, it makes sense for her to have a stage weight because she competes, she's competed a lot of times. So she's also at the maximum of how much muscle they want her to have. Maybe another pound of muscle will help her, but it's really not like she needs 8 pounds of muscle. That'd be if she gained 8 pounds of muscle, it would hurt her. It wouldn't help her at this point. So maybe a pound, maybe 2 would be like the absolute limit. So yeah, for her, knowing a stage weight, knowing a target within a couple pounds makes sense. But if you're still building, it's just not possible to know your true stage weight. You can know what I got to last time and I looked pretty good. And then you can kind of shoot for, hey, I want to be about 2 pounds heavier than last time. It's been 6 months. I should have about 2 more pounds of muscle than the last time. That type of thing. But just shooting for it your first time, just go for a stage look more than a stage weight, I would say.
Yeah. So this person maybe is looking more for like, how can I tell I'm conditioned enough? Maybe they're going that route instead of big enough. And in that case, it's again, we're going to look different at different weights, but it is so difficult to determine that if you've not stepped on stage yet. I think I can give you a few good options for that, and maybe attending like a seminar when you're close to a show, or thinking you're getting close to a show, seeing what a judge might say if a judge is present, or a coach, or even other athletes that are competing soon. But again, even their peak weeks might vary differently, so they could very much change within that time frame. But just to get an idea, is it going to be precise? No. But if you're completely clueless, you're just you don't know, am I even conditioned enough? Am I like 5 pounds off? Am I, where am I? Then I would say, you know what? Honestly, just don't overthink it. If you're truly that undecided, just go for it. And then you'll know, even if it means just getting on stage for one class, just to see what the photos look like, to see what you look like when you're stage lean, and go from there. But, the first show, especially, don't overthink it. Just go out there, have some fun.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And another question came in from Sarah Batty Garcia, Instagram, tips on how to build glute density.
Yeah. Time.
Yeah.
Time.
Unfortunately, it really is that simple. Isn't it suck? It is.
Yeah.
It's just,
There's no magic exercise or supplement. Just time, consistency, time, of course, challenging yourself.
I would say, yeah. And if you're one of like our clients, you probably get this too. I don't know if you do, but I get it, where I'll have someone who's very eager and excited to be, get to the next level, which I appreciate. I love that athletes are do that. But I get this question at least a few times a year where someone's like, what else can I be doing? Can I add anything else to my workout plan to build my glutes faster? Can I do? And I'm like, if there's something that I missed in creating your plan that we could have been doing, then I didn't do my job from the start. Right. So it's like, it's just time, guys. Like it's always just time. It's very rarely that you could do more, if you have a good coach, they got a good plan, you're doing good frequency, intensity, it's most likely just going to take time.
Time is the answer.
Yeah. There's not like one magic glute exercise, but I do get that question a lot. It's like, what else can I do? Like if there's can you imagine if I was like your coach for like a year and then you're like, is there something else I could be doing? I'm like, oh yeah, there's a whole bunch we could do. We should have been.
Oh yeah. Well, now that you asked, wow.
Oh,
that's what you want?
Maximizing your glute progress is what of course. There's a whole array of things.
Well, in that case, you should have told me this sooner.
You should have asked. I didn't know that we were trying to build your glutes to match the division. I just thought,
Yeah. I will say though, it is always good to go through the list of things that maybe you can give it a rating. Like, could I be doing this better, or am I getting too lazy with this? Because sometimes we just go through the movements, I should say. So, for example, if I'm taking a look at my training just as a whole, what are some things as a whole I can be doing better? So you can always ask yourself those things, but there is no one size fits all answer. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, if I'm being honest, there's something I could probably do better. Maybe I'm stretching. So there's not an answer that's going to fit everyone, but I will say just analyze things that you might be able to do better on your own. And maybe that's not a coaching thing. It's not that your coach didn't put that in the plan. It's more so you as a person, because you have homework to do when your coach is not watching.
Yeah, I will say more times than not, the glutes aren't building because of the intensity in the gym. And I was telling Ashley about this earlier. We're going to be changing up some things for our listeners who are members, of course. We're going to be changing some things up with our posing seminars this year, where we're actually going to go and do some glute, like specific leg specific mechanics classes along with the posing seminars that we have. So we can make sure that everyone is working out right. And I am getting my hands on everyone that's part of the team, that we can go over their mechanics, make sure we go over corrective stretching and going into the workout and proper workout intensity. And we're going to do that multiple times this year. So you guys, because that's just the one thing that there is it's a little bit harder, a little bit more of a disconnect with online coaching, is how hard are you working out every day? I don't see you working out every day. So that's like the one advantage where there's like a one-on-one trainer versus with the coaching, because the coaching is mostly nutrition and program design. But I want to kind of get that gap filled this year. So we're going to do a lot of those mechanics classes with our seminars. So if you're not part of the team, way for you to solve that problem is maybe go somewhere where there's like a glute specialist trainer. There's a lot in Florida. There's some in Vegas. We have them here too at the gym. So we can set that, you can go with someone and make sure, hey, am I getting the right intensity? Am I going to the right mechanics of my exercises? And if you can get those holes plugged, that'll probably help you a little bit. If you've been working on this for years and you've studied it and you've watched all the videos, it's probably just going to come down to just time. For most people, it's going to be time if the intensity is solved already. So yeah, I wish there was a better answer for that.
Yeah, it's tricky because sometimes these questions are very individualized and you can't really answer them without knowing the person very well, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's how it is.
You know what? Before our next question, I'm going to go into our live questions, because we got a good live question.
Okay.
I know you know the answer to this. I know it too, but you're so good at it. We're going to give it to you.
Okay.
The question is from Priscilla. She says, how to know what color bikini looks best? And that came for YouTube comments.
Yeah. So there's definitely some that won't look best. I know that. And that's firstly, just know that whatever color looks the best on you in real life, your favorite color in real life against your everyday skin tone might not be what's best for you on stage, because it looks totally different once you add the stones and the lighting. Definitely look for a saturated color, nothing like pastel-y, like a mint green, I don't think is a good option. Baby blue, lavender. I would say if you're a darker skin athlete, you might be able to get away with that a little bit. But get a nice vivid color that pops on your skin tone. Nothing too wild either. Don't try to start trends. Um, I would say, especially in the beginning, safe color is like red, blue, emerald green, eggplant. What are some other safe colors?
Gem tones are usually the way to go.
Tones.
Gem tones are the way to go. That create good contrast. So just look at a color that's going to be bright on stage. Understand what Ashley said. You are going to be way darker than you normally are, like shades and shades darker than you normally are. Not like one shade. It's nothing like you went out to the beach for a week on vacation and got tan. It's like you went to like 10 beach vacation. It's not like a tone you can kind of imagine your skin tone being that dark. So just something that pops and creates good contrast. If you're going to go red, go with like a brighter red. Don't go with that deep maroon red. It generally will blend a little bit. So you want contrast and pop. If you're going to go with blue, don't go with like a dark navy blue. Go with a bright blue. Something that's just going to create some contrast. And then, you know, something that matches your personality. If you're not, you know, a bubblegum, you know, bouncy kind of girl, then probably that bubblegum pink isn't going to make the most sense if you're kind of more of that kind of sultry poser, you know? So little things like that matter. You know, it kind of sells the whole picture. This is a fitness model contest. So if you are, you know, your posing will have something to do with it too. What you feel comfortable in will have something to do with it too. And how it just contrasts with your skin tone. Now, most of the suit companies you can order a kind of a swatch, different swatches from them. So you can kind of put it up to your skin tone. You could even go to or probably even Amazon has it, just get some Protan and put Protan on like an area that's not going to be, it's going to be hidden for a little while. Put some Protan on, you know, do a couple coats so you can see how dark you'll be, and then grab those swatches and put it right on with your skin tone and just look for contrast. That would be the main thing. And yeah.
Angel Competitions does free online consults, does not cost you anything. You do not have to commit to a suit or anything like that. It's on their website. And if you do end up getting a suit, use code AshleyKFit to save.
Yeah. Save and get some of those. And Ashley has her suits that are on there too. She gets to name her suits with fun names too. So
I don't know if they have them up there right now, but sometimes they'll put up my suits that I wore. Like, because the cool thing about Angels is like I can swap out suits. I'll try a suit for a show or two and then be like, I want to try another suit slightly different than this. So I'll send this one back to try a slightly different version. So sometimes they have some of my previously lightly used suits on there as well. So I know they're at a discount. So check back frequently. Oh, Jennifer, that's such a good question. You already know my answers to this. So Jennifer
I figured that would be a funny one.
Is there anything you guys are doing differently in the prep for the Arnold versus the Olympia? There's like a huge difference between these preps. For Olympia, man, I was killing it in that prep, gave it my all. For the Arnold prep, I'm not, because I'm not doing the Arnold.
So no cardio, eat what you want.
Yeah, it's much different because I'm not prepping, because I'm not doing it. So much different.
It's the most relaxed prep. It's the least stressed, most relaxed prep for a major show I've ever seen you.
I'm prepping to watch the live stream.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
We do need a prep. We do need a prep to have no FOMO though. We got to prep to have no FOMO. Both of us.
I'm not going to watch. I probably won't watch it.
Yeah, it's going to be like, it's always that scenario where if.
So did you see the show last weekend?
It's always a scenario as the coach where I'm like, could have got her. or if someone's like really, really on, you're like, okay, that's fine. That's fine.
That was a good choice.
That's fine. But if it's one where they're off, he's like, damn it.
Like everyone just happens to be off that day. Like what if I was that one that wasn't off?
Could have got it. But it is funny because when someone's on, I'm like, it's fine. Yeah, it's cool. It would have been tough. Who knows what would have happened there? You know, it's funny. So,
and Tina asked, as a new competitor, how do I decide the difference between fit model and bikini? That's another good question. I think it's Tina. Carlson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's another good question. And I think that's a question a lot of people are asking too, because we still don't have an actual winner for Fit Model Division yet.
Yeah.
So everyone is a little bit confused until that first show goes on and there's a little more clarity. I think everyone's going to be saying the same. But you mentioned you're a newer competitor. So my mind, I'm just going to assume Fit Model.
Yeah.
Because bikini takes quite a while these days to get to the ideal physique. You might find more success in Fit Model. But I would say before you solidify what I said, just wait to see how it plays out and see how the show goes and what they're picking.
Yeah. And I know Tina will be here. You'll be here for one of our posing classes before the shows, and I'll be able to tell you where you fit
well, there
best.
you go.
Right. Yeah. Right. Based on, last time I saw her, I would say probably lean more towards Fit Model, but I haven't seen her in a little while. So, so we'll see. But so it'll be, I would say this, about 70% of competitors like that just started are probably going to be Fit Model, is what I'm going to say, that we're bikini. If you haven't maxed out the bikini class and you're newer, you're probably going to be more Fit Model. And I know that sucks to hear for a lot of people, but it's just the reality of where you're at muscularity wise. Most people are going to be Fit Model. I don't think people are going to realize this until towards the end of the year, but this kind of was the same thing with men's physique when it first came out, because all there was bodybuilding or men's physique. And there were so many guys bodybuilding that were clearly men's physique. And they were like, I want to be bodybuilder. I'm like, cool. Well, you're not. Do you see those guys in men's physique? They're jacked, they're the same amount of muscle you have right now. And they're like, well, I want to show my legs. And I'm like, you're, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're not a bodybuilder anymore. Yeah. Like that, you're a men's physique guy. It is what it is, So the same thing's going to happen with Fit Model. The first time everyone's going to say, well, I still want to do bikini. I want to do bikini. That's cool. But if you want to be competitive, you got to go with where you're at. A lot of people want to do wellness. They're just not built that way, and they're better in bikini. And then there's going to be the same thing. Some people just aren't muscular enough for bikini yet. And so they're going to do Fit Model at first, but totally up to you on which route you want to travel. I will always tell you the truth if you want to hear it. So, if I'm at a seminar, I'm happy to do those. Doing those, a lot of seminars in person, doing one in Salt Lake City coming up February 8th, right?
TheWasatchWarrior.com for more information. Salt Lake City, February 8th. Attention, tell your friends.
So I will do those there. If you want to hear where you fit best and what division's best, I'll tell you, and I'll tell you why. But be prepared for it. I'm not going to lie to you and fluff you and be like, hey, yeah, oh yeah, you're next Miss Olympia bikini, when you haven't fit even the muscularity for Fit Model yet,
Yeah.
So,
and also your genetics too, which also leads into the next question. I am going to make an assumption that the Fit Model division is going to be very, very genetics based at the top, because it's a physique that you can't build too much muscle to hide things. So for example, and I've been using this one as an example, in other divisions, perhaps you might notice that from a forward facing angle, some of these girls don't have like the smallest waist, but they were able to build their lats up to give the illusion of a small waist. Same thing with your quads. So you can build curves, is what I'm saying. You can build around a structure to create somewhat of a look you want in other divisions, right? But for Fit Models, since they are drastically limiting the muscle, just think about it. It's all out there. You can't really hide it. So that is something to consider with the Fit Model. Also, I'm going to assume things like skin texture, hair, makeup, all and posing are going to weigh even more heavily in this new division. So that's something you need to ask yourself as well. I kind of picture a fit beauty pageant in a way. That's my interpretation of it, because it's going to be very heavily about the looks too. I'm going to assume that is not any insider information I got. I'm just going to make that educated guess, given we can't do much with the muscles. So
yeah, I'm very interested to see how this is going to go. Is it going to be, because now the option of having bikini is there, and before there was no option. It was just bikini was Fit Model, and so the variance in the physiques was quite extreme. There'd be like, in 2015, 2016, there was a lot of people were like, oh, is she too muscular? Is she not too muscular? Oh, that was the best one we had that day, but she was like technically too muscular, but she was still the best they had that day. How's that going to weigh into Fit Model now? Are they just going to be like, oh no, you go to bikini and you don't place today? Or are they going to be like, oh yeah, well, you win today, but you really should go to bikini. Like, how's that going to go? Like, there's so many variables that are going to be in this division, but I'm excited for, I get to learn and master a new division. You know, it's essentially a whole nother division, which is crazy because there's only a few coaches that are still around that were killing it back then in bikini. So in theory, we should have an advantage this year, especially because we know that's all we did back then. There was no other option really. It was just bikini and then figure. And all my figure girls look like you girls do now, but now the bikini girls have bigger glutes than figure, and are actually for the most part are a little bit leaner, honestly, than the figure girls I had competing back in 2013. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like, as lean as you are now in like 2013 at like a national level, they'd be like, oh, she's a little lean, a little too capped in the shoulders, too much striation. You know, it'd be like, isn't that crazy for figure?
Yeah, that it is such a thing, because a lot of people used to say like, oh, like she won the Olympia 3 times in a row, but she wouldn't even qualify for this year's Olympia. I'm like, yeah, I'm the first one to say that. Like, duh. It's because I had to look that way to place well. Yeah. Like, it's like you try to, you know, it's not, I tried to evolve with the sport. So
yeah, you like imagine always being too advanced. Like, why would you do that?
I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, even though I'm way too, hopefully it catches up one day.
None of you would even know who she was. It was just like, if she just did what she wanted for that. You got to mold to the sport. Like, it's so dumb when people say that. Of course she does. Of course not. Why? How would you?
I'm the first one to say that. Like,
how would you?
I'm telling you that. That's why they created another division.
Yeah, exactly. So funny.
Okay, now back to the questions. Okay, so what does good genetics mean? What does good genetics for bikini mean exactly, and how do you know if someone has it? So there's some pluses and minuses you can have with any physique, right? In bikini. What are some that come to your mind right off the bat? Because I think the first one that comes to mind is density in quads. Because I feel like sometimes that can be quite a deal breaker. If someone in bikini has dense quads, they straight when they walk. And that's a genetic thing, because you ask these girls and it's like, I don't even train quads because they know it's an overpowering muscle. It's just something that, you know, we all have muscles that develop little more overpowering and some less.
Yeah. And that would be one of the ones that's like genetically disadvantaged, right? Would be, you know, your quads.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
Oh, no, it's all right. I just wanted to put it out there.
That's a bad thing.
Yeah, as a bad thing, disadvantage. And that's a good thing to go into. There's going to be advantages and disadvantages of it. So if we'll start with disadvantage, but quads that striate too much, it's somewhat solvable if you come in at the right body fat levels. And sometimes too, which is strange, it would seem like the opposite. But sometimes if you can develop someone a little bit more, the striations will be a little bit less, which is a crazy thing too. In the hamstrings, that happens a lot, where someone is like, when they develop more, they get rounder and they don't have as much, like the skin's not going around the gaps as much and it's not showing as much striations, you know? And so it's person by person dependent on how that's going to go. You know, good example of that would be like Tiana, when she was coming in a couple years ago, her quads were really striated. And then last year they were actually a lot better, striation. So we'll filled her up a little bit, make sure that they weren't as striated. She got as high as second place last year. So it's awesome. So moving up. So we'll see this year if we can get them to be, actually, as of last year, no one said anything was a problem. So, but it's just a matter of how you're preparing, how hard you're walking when you're on that stage. What are you doing for your workouts? You know, are you increasing density of your quads with your workouts? Are you avoiding the quads? So there's all these different routes to travel. Another one would be a disadvantage would be like your clavicle base is like really narrow, you know, that's
or too wide.
Yeah. Too wide or too narrow. Some people have these kind of like diamond clavicle bases where it's kind of rounded up top.
Yeah.
And that makes it difficult for, having the best structure for bikini. You could look at some people that have these kind of long clavicle bases that are like straight across. Like you could look at like a Janet Leug and a Laura Lee. They have that kind of like straight across wider clavicle base. It's not too wide though. And it just really helps set their shoulders wide where they don't need this crazy development of their shoulders, but they still have good shoulders without crazy development. Janet's a good example of that too, because she doesn't have crazy, huge capped shoulders, but the width of them was great. And the way that her structure was, her waist was small, her hips were set wide. So she didn't need like a ton of development on those bones, right? Yes. So how your bones are set is going to be a good definer of good genetics, small waist, wide clavicles, good hips, And then of course, building the muscle on top of that, is your muscle crazy dense? Is it not crazy dense? Is it round and bubbly? Do you have good muscle bellies to start with? You know, if you have, you know, you don't have wide set hips and you have a kind of a, sorry to say it, but like a flat butt to start with, it's going to be difficult to get you to that next level because the base isn't there. So, you know, it is a genetic sport. There's just certain things, you know, just like basketball is a genetic sport. You know, if you got great hand-eye coordination and and also you got to be like, you know, 6'3", 6'4", whatever it is, what these guys are. So there's just some sports that are going to lean towards that. You can build your best physique for it, but are we talking, is that going to be Olympia level? Who knows? You know, that type of thing. So,
And then with the clavicles too, I want to briefly touch upon this as well. They can be too wide. So what happens when a bikini competitor has a clavicle base that's too wide? They get that X frame. So the X frame is something we've heard a lot these last few years, and the hourglass versus the X frame. So to kindly just briefly describe this, an X frame kind of looks like an upside down triangle, right? Or a Dorito.
Dorito.
Yeah, maybe the hips are a little more narrow, but you see that really drastic angle from the shoulder all the way down to the hip, right? It's that boom. The lats are just out there. Well, that's sometimes due to just the clavicle base being wide. Sometimes they don't have much development at all. It's just the base is very wide. So in the last few years, we've been hearing we don't want X frame in bikini, we want hourglass. So what happens is even sometimes whenever that base is too wide, you get the X frame look, which would be more of a figure structure. Doesn't mean you have figure muscle, but the figure structure kind of would favor that X frame, the wide clavicle. So basically what I'm trying to say is once you get to figure, I think then we can say, oh, it's good to have a really wide clavicle base.
Yeah. So it's it's funny. You hear all these in bikini, and you're going to hear it in fit model a lot, is, you know, you won't hear too much in figure. Oh, it's too wide of clavicle base. You know, you're not going to hear that too much in body. You're never going to hear that in bodybuilding. Too wide of, you know, it's always in bikinis like, oh, is it too much? Is it too little? It's got to be just right. You know, it's that, what is that porridge? That
Goldilocks.
Yeah. This one's just right. So genetics in bikini, you know, you do want to have wide clavicles, but how wide, right? Not too wide. You do want to have some lats, but how much? How high? You know, you do want to have good hips, but you know, where's your muscle on those hips, right? So all these things, but if you're looking for the perfect, you know, structure in bikini, it's going to be, you know, a smaller waist, good hips. You know, we call it 3D glutes, where basically your waistline is here, and then your hips are outside of your waistline, right? They're wider than your waistline. We call that 3D glutes. You have a good hourglass shape going down to your glutes, not super high lats like this that are just super X'd off, but nice roundness to everything. So it should flow very well without any harsh lines.
Yes. And body fat distribution. Ideally, it'd be nice to have nice, even body fat distribution, but that's rarely the case. Even I think most people can say I have a certain area that puts on more body fat than others, right? But ideally, a nice, even distribution of body fat is good. And that goes for every division, honestly.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it is a tough one because you really cannot control it. So if you ever see those, sometimes you might question, why did this competitor come in so lean? Like her legs are just striding even when she walks. Well, then look at her waistline. Is it like softer? Maybe she's attempting to get the waistline to get lean, but just because of her body fat distribution situation, her legs now have to get like so strided and lean because if she doesn't do that, then her waist is going to be like thick and soft. So
one of the funnier feedback Sandy gave me, it's funny. I love Sandy so much. She said, I was like, yeah, Sandy, it was a pro bikini competitor. And she had that same issue. Like her legs would get crazy lean, but her waistline just wouldn't come in until her legs were crazy lean. And it's like, the only option is getting her leaner to get her waistline to be right, but her legs are way too lean when it does. And I was like, yeah, I'm just struggling with this competitor to try to get her ratios right of body fat distribution. I'm trying to get her legs to be a little softer while her core a little bit harder. And I'm just struggling with that. I don't know if you have any, tips. She's like, well, Adam, that's why they pay you the big bucks. Because it's like, because she knows it's like, it's just one of those things.
It's one of those things.
It's just tough. You're going to have to build that. And in that scenario, what you really need to do is build that competitor's legs up big enough. So hopefully there's more size of fat to go around, and eventually that'll help balance it out. But it's a tough thing. And there's ways to work around most things. And some things are going to require a lot of time, like building up lean mass in your legs is going to take a lot of time to do that. And even then it still might not work, So it is a very genetic sport on that part of it. And you find out as you go higher and higher, how much more it weighs into it. So
there's things that you can change and things you cannot, but we all have pluses and minuses at the end of the day. Just know that everyone does.
Yeah. I will say that, working at, the highest level of this for a long time, I don't know of a single competitor who has perfect genetics.
Yeah.
None of them. Like, you talk to all of them, they all have their issues, I was in a podcast with Maureen, like the year she won. She's like, I just don't get that lean. So I like how they like me softer, a little rounder right now. She's like, I just don't get that. Like, I just can't get shredded like that. And like, that was just one of her things. I was like, I didn't know that. And she just, she's like, I only said that because she said it in a podcast. And then you have other people that like even you see Jennifer talk, she's like, I couldn't compete all year. Like, Ashley, my body just doesn't work that way. So it's like, all these people have these different things. So just so you know, if you're out there, and I just say those stories because everyone has a disadvantage. Ashley is good at staying lean, hard at getting lean, right? Hard at building muscle, but she does it, right? So no one is just like, oh no, this is just like Tuesday night for me. I just walk on stage and I win these awards and there it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's just easy. It's just easy peasy for me. So just know that no one has like that direct, easy route. You could see all these issues that people have. I can name the top 10, every one of them having X issues. But no one's going to be perfect. So just don't take it as like, oh, yes, I'll never be ready for this. Cause no, the best of the best of the best all have their things they got to work around.
Yep.
So
that's true. And it's an ever changing thing, right? Yeah. Like we just said, it wasn't until a few years ago that they said, no, we want hourglass instead of XFrame, because we always thought that was like a desirable thing. Well, at least I did anyway. And then I started hearing feedback, and not from mine, because I don't have like, going back, I wish I had that wide clavicle. I was always like, oh man, that's something I can't change really, but whatever. But come to find out, it's not. Years later, I'm like, oh, it's good not to have such a wide clavicle for the sport. But yeah, that's just an example how things kind of evolve, and what they're looking for might slightly change over time. So yeah, the XFrame versus hourglass is an example.
Yeah, so maybe something that doesn't work well for you might change to be an advantage.
Yeah, like, oh wow, now they want this. Yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah, because there was years where the XFrame, it kind of seemed like maybe that's what they're wanting, and then they just changed it, and we're like, oh, that sucks for without the XFrame.
I mean, heck, 10 years ago, what I look like now certainly wasn't what they were looking for either. So that's just an example. Things change. All right. So what piece of advice would you give someone who is debating on competing in? This was submitted by WWL Movement LLC on Instagram. I would say my piece of advice would just be to do it. If you're thinking about it, this is your calling to do it. The new Fit Model division's out, and I think that woke up a lot of people to compete again. So I think you're one of those. So don't press the snooze button. Wake up. Do it.
Yeah. And hey, if you guys are out there thinking about doing Fit Model, the strike while the iron is hot.
Yes.
Like, if you're thinking about waiting to see how it goes, you're thinking the wrong way.
Well, actually, we kind of told the other girl earlier to see how they're judging it to see if you'd fit into the division. So
who, Tina?
Yes. So
I could tell Tina right when I see her. Yeah, I'll tell Tina right when I see her. I'm telling my girls, like, okay, here's the thing, guys. And it's probably not my advantage to tell everyone this, but whatever. So they need a new star. Like, them creating a new division is saying we need a new star. That's what it is. Someone has to be the star of that division. The girl who wins the first pro card overall, she's going to be the face of it right when it comes out. And then it'll be the next girl who wins the next overall, right? And then the girl who wins the first pro show, like, she might as well be Miss Olympia. That's the face, right? And then whoever wins the Arnold, whoever wins the Olympia, that's the face, right? So that's not happening until 2026, guys. Like, we're not going to get, and we might not even get a Miss Olympia 2026 in Fit Model. I don't know if they're going to have enough pros at that point to justify it. So we might not have till 2027. So that means if you're out there and you're winning a pro card, or you're competitive right now, you're the one getting those looks. You're the one getting those eyes. You're the one getting those sponsorships because you're the face. So, like, strike while the iron is hot. You don't want to, if you can avoid going in there when there's 10,000 Fit Model competitors, you can go in when there's only 100. your odds go up substantially of being that star. So if you've been thinking about it, jump into it. I'm not saying sign up with us. I don't care who you sign up with. I'm just saying if you're thinking about doing it, do it now.
Yeah, and I
It
think
makes a lot of sense.
A lot of people are afraid because they're, I think, afraid to look a little bit silly because they're a little confused, but so is everyone else. So don't think you're going to go out there and look silly, because maybe you will, but everyone's, because we're all just figuring it out with the posing, with the looks and everything. So just go for it. If you're like, but go in with the mindset of like, you know what, let's just go in, see what happens. Really, please do not go in with the mindset of I'm going to win this, which you shouldn't anyway, really, as I've described many times. But really, you've got to have kind of like an open mindset to this, because it could go really, really well, or it could not. And we don't know yet. There's nothing to go off of. So just go in with that mindset of like, hey, let's see what happens, but let's have fun.
Yeah. I guess I'm the odd one out on this, where I feel like I'm super prepared for it. Really? I don't know. I'm not worried about it at all. Like other divisions that came out, because
the girls are though, but you're not competing.
No, like as in a coach, you know, it always comes back on you, right? But I'm looking at it as like, I've already prepared. I've probably prepared more fit model people than I have bikini people, really, because until like 2019, 2018, it really didn't get this crazy in size. So from 2012 to 2018, wherever you want to call it, that line, I was prepping hundreds and hundreds of fit model girls. Like I have thousands of preps in fit model already. Like I have thousands. So for me, I'm like, yeah, I can do this. It's easier. Like it's not nearly as technical. So I'm like walking in like, oh, this is, I don't know. I guess maybe I'll get a start.
I mean, I don't know how the other coaches feel about that. I think the girls, the athletes are the ones that are just like, I'm scared because I don't know what to do. I don't know. I'm going to look silly. I'm going to look stupid. You know, they're overthinking it for sure.
It's described, if it is how it's described, I've done thousands of these preps. I can walk in on that. No problem. So it's if it is as it's described, and if it's not, I'll find it after one show, you know, but I don't see any reason to believe it's not exactly as what's described, you know, how Tyler's saying, how Sandy's saying, how everyone's saying it. And it would be, and even if it did, worst case scenario, I know I could get the body right. Maybe the posing will be a little off. But
yeah, that's what I'm really confused about, is with the posing. Well, I think the routines in general, we'll see how they go, but I think we're overcomplicating it with the routines. First off, if you see old videos of me posing in 2015, I was super bouncy. I don't think that's what they're looking for. That's not what they're looking for. I can tell you that. Well, I would say just a regular bikini routine, but you just have to switch up the front pose.
Well, that's the thing at the amateur level. If you guys are worried about it, at the amateur level, honestly, the posing routine isn't that critical. I mean, there's like, it's important. Of course, you want to get it right, but your body's going to do all the work for you at that show. You know, there is a judge in Colorado, Dave Fuji. He's an awesome judge. And he would always tell people, because at every show, just so you guys are out there, if you're thinking about competing, at every show, if someone, they'll usually ask this question, who's competing for the first time? It's usually about 40% of the room. And Fuji, he would say, you know what, if you forget your posing routine, no matter what division you're in, just stand there and look at, I could see what I'm looking at. And even if you just stand there and you're kind of bikini pose, but where you can, and you're forgetting your posing routine, just stand there. I'll see it. Don't worry. You know, I'm not judging you down. This isn't the Olympia. I'm not judging you down because your posing routine isn't the best. I want to see you in your front back pose, and I can do my work from there. You know, it's now, if it's really close between you and another girl, and that girl is like a awesome posing routine, yeah, she'll beat you. But if your body's way better than that girl and she's an amazing poser, you're going to win. It's at the amateur level. If we're not talking nationals, getting a pro card, we're talking NPC, getting qualified. So the bodies do a lot of the talking at this level. So if you're a little worried about that, but you got, you know, you fit that fit model division, well, just jump on stage. You're going to be fine. I don't think there's any major issues, but yeah, everyone is overthinking. I think a little, maybe I'm underthinking it. I don't know. It just seems to me, I'm like, oh, it's back to 215.
No, I think the prepping part, I feel comfortable with that too. It's like the everything else part.
Yeah.
the suits, the posing, the hair, the, you know, everything. So it's a lot. And I think everyone's overthinking it a bit. Just go out there and have some fun, and let's see how it goes. And if it's not for you, whatever, there's always bikini. So there's, and even then, you know, like we said, things evolve. So maybe you kind of grow into the look that they are looking for once we figure it all out, and we'll be good to go.
Yeah. Okay, so we got another question from Carla Diaz Solano. Her question is, at what rate should you gain weight? Example, kilograms per week, post show, and what's the ideal max gain?
So I picked this question because, well, firstly, the second part of it, we talk about that so much. We always talk about kind of having a limit for your own personal self to kind of keep yourself in check. But what I just realized was we never really talk about what rate should someone gain weight in the off season, right? Obviously, you don't want to gain like 10 pounds in the first week, but what do you think would be the ideal, I guess, path to getting to the off season?
That's a good question. Yeah, it'll definitely vary per person too, based on how depleted you are on stage day. So, it's a tough one because depletion, being how depleted you are, really changes things up. So, let me give you a couple examples here because it's unfortunately not as simple as it sounds. If I have a client who's been killing their off season and they only need an 8-week prep for the show and they're cruising into the show and then they get a little bit, what I like to do is get someone a little bit too lean, like 2 weeks out from the show. And if someone's too lean 2 weeks out from the show, I'm like, sweet, I got her. I want to get them like 1 week too lean and then feed them into the show, decrease their cardio into the show. That person on stage day, they're not depleted, they're full, they feel good, their cardio's been low for 2 weeks. Like, that person is going to gain weight at a much slower rate because they've essentially already gained that weight. They've already like replenished all their glycogen. Now, someone who's like, I'm struggling to get them lean, and I'm like, we're going to diet all the way until like the Wednesday before the show. And then Thursday, we're starting to load them with carbs Thursday and Friday. That person's probably still going to have some carbs to reload. So after the show, the first example, she might only gain a couple pounds like the week after the show, like the whole week. She's eating, she's having fun, she's eating out, whatever. She might gain like 2 pounds because she's already way up there. The other person might gain like 10, 12. Like, we don't want them to, but they just might react that way. They're holding water from eating foods that they haven't been eating. Their digestion's off from the total food volume is off. They're stored more glycogen because they weren't 100% full the day of the show. There just wasn't enough time. So that first week is going to be the one that's really tricky. And kind of find yourself somewhere in one of those scenarios and then find what fits your scenario better. But yeah, we aren't trying to have these big blowups after the show. The ideal way is the first person. Not everyone's going to get that though. It's really tough for a lot of people to get that way just based on genetics again. Now, after that first like initial, okay, my body has absorbed all its glycogen again, it's replenished all its glycogen stores. I'm at like my balance again. What is a good weight to be gaining per week for that person? Well, there's another array of questions that I'll go into it. When's your next show? That's going to be a question. If you're competing again in a month, then we're probably not going to try to gain any weight. We're probably going to try to keep you really close to that weight. If you're not competing again until next year, well, then we're going to go through the process of, bringing your cardio down, bringing your calories up without having these substantial weight gains every week. So every week we're trying to push those calories as high as we can without any substantial weight gain, and then reduce your cardio as low as we can without any substantial weight gain. And by substantial on a weekly basis, I'm going to say around after that initial week or two where your like body just kind of storing glycogen again, about 1% of the weight. So if you're 120 pounds on stage, that's 1.2 pounds is kind of like the maximum for the first month. And after that, we shouldn't be needing to gain 1.2 pounds a week after that anymore.
Right.
Like, you should just be that. If you're gaining 1.2 pounds a week after you've already had your reload and after like that first month of the show, you're probably just gaining body fat. Like,
yes.
It's not like, oh, my body needs it, I need to be gaining. I'm gaining lean mass at 1.2 pounds of lean mass a week. Yeah, right. I wish you were getting like, I'm a 200-pound man. I wish I could gain lean mass at 1.2.
I'd be a bodybuilder by like me.
It's crazy. Yeah, I could take anything I wanted, drug wise, whatever, and I still wouldn't gain 1.2 pounds of pure muscle right now. Like, I wouldn't. So you girls out there who are trying to gain that 1% a week of lean mass, like, you're not. It's just not happening. Especially if you're advanced, maybe your first like year of lifting, your first 6 months of lifting, and you have like crazy genetics, maybe. But if you're talking year 3, year 4 or 5, where you're an advanced athlete, where we call it, we look at your workout age and it's, past 4 or 5 years, and you're talking about gaining 1% a week in pure lean mass, like, it's not happening. Like you're probably going to be gaining, if you're killing it and your genetics are great, like 1 pound of lean mass would be like every 2 months would be realistic. So in regards to how much weight should I gain, how much muscle versus fat are you willing to trade is kind of the answer. Never want, so my kind of rule of thumb is if you're gaining half the time and cutting half the time, then you only have 6 months of gaining. So if I can shift that to cutting week, adding 1 week of cutting for every 3 weeks of gaining, well, then that makes a good offset at the end of the year where, 9 months or so of the year I'm gaining and 3 months out of the year or so I'm cutting. I get a big advantage over the people who are cutting for 6, 9 months out of the year and only gaining for 3 because they go on these crazy off seasons and they go on these forever diets and then they're still chasing their stage weight, their stage conditioning. So that's kind of what I shoot for is 1 week of cutting for every 3 weeks of gaining. So for every month of gaining I only add 1 week of dieting. That's like but it's hard, guys. It's, I get a lot of hate because people are like, oh, you always try to keep people lean. I'm like, no, I don't try to keep lean. I just try to strategically attack bodybuilding with more months of gaining than cutting.
Yeah.
I don't want you to spend forever cutting and then lose muscle while dieting so hard. Like it's just a strategy. It's just my strategy. It's like, well, a football coach has their strategy. You might not like his strategy, but like, you're like, oh, he just tries to keep people lean and gives them eating disorders. And I'm like, no, I keep them healthy and I have realistic expectations using like science. Hey, you can't gain this much muscle. So why gain that much weight? And then if you look at things as like a whole, you're like, okay, yeah, I would rather gain for 9 months and diet for 3 than cut for 6, 7 months and gain for 5 or 4. Like it just makes sense. Like the food's just not worth it to me at that point,
I agree.
But people don't look at it as a food worth it to me.
So I think they're coming around to it though. And kind of like how the eating every 3 hours is a thing of the past. Maybe the idea of that will also be a thing of the past. The idea that you have to, go into an off season and put a whole bunch of bulking, unnecessary.
I still get emails. Fat. I still get emails and DMs from girls who are like clearly past the point of where they should be in the off season and body fat, who are still like, oh, I'm going to bulk another 10, 15 pounds, and I'm like, what? Here's another thing, guys. Once you have enough fat on you, like there's a certain level of fat where your body has enough energy. Like if you're gaining when you have, 20 pounds of fat to lose, your body that's energy. That's what it is. Like if your body needs the energy because you're at, let's say you're trying to gain and you're close to maintenance calories, but you have 20 pounds of fat to pull from. If you dip into a deficit for 100 calories, 200 calories during that day, whatever, you have 20 pounds of fat to use, 20 pounds of energy to use. That's a ton of calories available. If you're super lean, yeah, it's going to be really hard for you to pull from that energy because your body's going to resist you on it. That's why it fights you at the end to get leaner. But if you have a ton of fat available on you, like just take advantage of that.
That's what it's there for.
Yeah. I think people think of it as like the fat in my body is so different than the fat, like the energy on my plate. Like your body will use it. It's a very good, efficient machine at using that energy when needed. Now, if you're in these huge deficits, yeah, it's going to be, a little bit harder. But yeah, you can, if you have a good amount of body fat, that's where you can easily recomp, gain some muscle while losing some fat. You can't shift it to like, oh, I'm going to eat 500 calories only, build a ton of muscle and lose all my fat. Like that's not going to happen. But if you're like, you burn 2000 calories and you're eating, let's say, 1700 and you're taking a real slow recomp and your body's using some of that fat because you have it available, then yeah. But, if you're up only 5 pounds from stage weight, that's probably not going to happen either. It's good. You just have to put yourself you have to think about, okay, where am I at? Does it make sense for me to continue bulking? And if you have that much fat available, there's going to be pretty much no one like worth their salt that's going to say, yeah, keep gaining body fat to gain another pound of, keep gaining 10 more pounds of body fat to gain 1 pound of muscle. That doesn't make any sense. So there you go. There's my rant.
Yes.
Is it ranty? That's ranty.
No, we need it every once in a while. We all need a little wake up call, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
a nice little dose for reality.
People just like to live in their they like to self-convince themselves that they're doing the right thing.
That is the thing I feel happens a lot these
Justification
days.
in it. Yeah, it's like
rationalizing, coping. They call it coping.
Yeah, anything else that doesn't coincide with that thought process is an attack on me.
False.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know how else to better explain that being, I think most people would say is the ideal way. But there you go. That's a fun one. I like that. Let's see how much heat I get for that. All right. So we're at 49 minutes. What do you think? One more?
I think we should get to some of our amazing questions that we got from our viewers here because they will disappear
Okay.
after the stream ends.
Maybe we do
so
number 2
let's
then?
go
What do you
ahead
think?
and we might be able to answer a few of them quickly. And then maybe we make a part 2 for next week.
Yeah, this worked out pretty well.
Because
right?
we got through probably about half. That's
Okay,
all.
we'll do a part 2, guys. And then that means that if you're watching this late on YouTube, just throw your questions in the comments there. Maybe we'll use your question for next week.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So let's quickly get to some of these questions from our viewers. I've heard about competitors talk about the. Oh, you moved it.
I didn't move it up or anything. You've heard about competitors?
Okay.
No, I haven't moved it.
You did. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay. Floor. There it is.
Okay. There it is.
Okay. It says, I've heard of competitors talk about what is that?
The flooring on stage.
The flooring on stage. Okay.
And how sometimes it can be hard to walk on the flooring depending on the show. What is your recommendation to help with this? Okay. Actually, that'd be a good question for
Practicing on all different surfaces. All different surfaces, because if you're used to only practicing on hardwood floor and it's a carpet, you're gonna be out of luck. So whatever surface you can get your toes on, or your shoes on, I should say.
Yeah,
on your heels.
You're gonna see a mixture of wood surfaces, carpeted surfaces, and then the platform with carpet on the surface. Oh, you also see
rubberized.
Yeah, rubberized, and then
Plasticky.
plastic black surface too. I will say, well, you tell me. Actually, from what I've only walked on it with shoes, so what do I know? You know, the plastic and the wood. Would you say that's very similar?
Yeah, they're very slick, so be careful with the pivots.
And then the carpet, usually, unless it's like a thick carpet, usually that's fine for most people.
I like the office carpet.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite surface is the really shallow carpet.
Yeah.
But man, the deep carpet that they had that one year at the Olympia.
That was an ankle breaker.
Oh my God. People's heels were like sinking in. I think they padded underneath for the fitness competitors. That was horrible. I don't even think you could
like
practice.
Rolling.
Dude, you can't even practice with that surface. There's no surface like that.
Yeah.
None.
And then I will say, if you have those boxes, like you'll see a lot of these platform stages where they have like boxes, like a bunch of, I don't know, 4x4 boxes that they like put here, and they're in these, like, I guess, little channels. Just try to avoid the cracks. If you're walking straight, don't walk straight down the crack of that, because that'll be really tricky. So just walk a little offset to the left or right of it, so you're not walking down the cracks of those, and just try to avoid the cracks as much as you can on that. So
good tips, Coach Adam.
Yeah.
Do you make tweaks to training around a female cycle? No. You just go ham all day, every day. You don't slack. You just go.
Yep. That'd be a lot. That'd be a lot of. No, that'd be a lot of time.
That's
how it is.
Trying to be funny.
It'd be a lot of time. It'd be a lot of time. I mean, you're talking 25% of the time you're just adjusting the workout to be less. That's a pretty big disadvantage.
Just know that some days you're just not gonna. Whether you're on your cycle or not, whether you're a male or female, some days it's gonna be tougher than others. Just do what you can with your given scenario.
Yep. That's the difference between, would you say, dedication and motivation, right?
Yeah.
You're not always motivated, but you always have to be dedicated.
Yes.
That's the Ashley way.
That's what you gotta do.
Yeah. Okay.
Fat burners, do you need it? They're helpful, but I guess you don't need it.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
mostly for energy. Honestly.
That's the thing with supplements. There's a lot of supplements you don't technically need, but some are helpful. And that's always the problem, is like the coach is like, what supplements do you give someone? Because I can justify a reason for like a list of 50 different supplements, but I don't want to give someone 50 supplements, right? So it's like, yeah, technically you can use this. Technically you can use coenzyme Q10 as antioxidants. Great. Right. Technically it's great, but do I want to add that as number 21?
Yeah.
You know, like,
a full-time job at that point.
Yeah. It's like, and then you're just adding dollars to people too. So I try to stick with like the key ones that are going to be for that person in that scenario. It's just different that's always a tricky one, because there's always going to be a reason for a lot of different supplements. I can probably name close to 25 that I can justify a reason for every, like, a bodybuilder to use if there's an unlimited budget and then unlimited desire, of course. But is 1% better for coenzyme Q10? Is it worth it? Right? Do I start doing pyruvate for fat loss, even though it might be like this much more? Like, technically, yeah, it might help you. Right. So there's just different things for different scenarios, Right.
Definitely. And then Kelly Johnson, I think this will be our last one. Can you go over competing in different climates, hot and dry, humid, all that? So honestly, you just have to come in sooner. If it's a hot climate you're adjusting to. So for example, we're going from dry to humid. We're coming in a few days earlier in that case, and vice versa. If you're coming from humid to dry, you might want to come a few days earlier. Now, the way your body changes is going to be a little different, right? You're going to notice coming from dry to humid, oh my gosh, I got softer all of a sudden. What happened? It's almost like your skin's just like drinking up all that water.
Yeah.
But on the opposite end of things, when you're coming from humid and going to dry, you're going to be like, holy crap, I got so lean overnight. What?
Yeah.
You might be too lean. So that's just something you have to consider.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, the more you compete, the more you'll start figuring these things out. Maybe you're someone who doesn't get affected by these things at all. You know, most people do. I will say that most people have some reaction to it. And then some people, it's like, whoa, you just got shredded in like 3 days. Like, it's just crazy. There's like no keeping up with it. And then some people it's like, oh yeah, there's no different for me being in Vegas or being in Florida during hurricane season. Like, it doesn't even, it's the same thing. So it's just person by person too. So it comes with experience. There you
Absolutely.
go. Yeah. All right. So thank you guys so much for your questions. Again, keep them in the comments and we'll go from here.
Yeah. See you next week for part 2.